Good morning, Carmel. So good to see you.
Hi James, lovely to be here.
Being an incredible mentor and advisor to me for such a long time, I thought it'd be really nice to have you in this morning and just talk a little bit about your story and just share what has been an incredible journey, so inspiring in so many different ways, and also, I guess, quite an unusual track that's taken you to where you've got to today. So yeah, would it be all right just to introduce yourself a little bit to start with?
Yeah, for sure. My name's Carmel McConnell. I'm the founder of a charity called Magic Breakfast that delivers food to schools where children are arriving at risk of hunger. And I'm a tech growth person these days, having stepped back from Magic Breakfast now.
And start me from the beginning. I mean, how does someone found a charity like the Magic Breakfast? I mean, is that what you always set out to do? How did it come around?
Definitely not. I've had a completely accidental career. Okay. I mean, there's not, I know you had a question in there about, is there a plan? Was there a plan? No. Genuinely, my background's a mixture of technology and corporate consultancy and social activism, which is not, they're not easy bedmates, absolutely. But I was very involved in anti-racism work in my 20s, very involved in anti-nuclear work. And when I joined BT, I joined as in a very lowly role, so I could carry on with my social activism, so I could run campaigns like anti-deportation campaigns and have some money coming in. And within BT, I found that being a social activist was actually a superpower, because I was just used to getting on with things without having a lot of budget or a lot of resource, but getting things done. Yeah. And in big companies, it's very much a case of, well, we have to wait until we've got the plan and it's signed off and the boss says and this says and that says. So anyway, so fast forward many, many years on, I was running a change consultancy in the city and writing a book about, well, what is it that we in the business community can do to live our values in action, right? Yes. You sort of start from the basis that you're a good person, you want to do good in the world and you want to do well materially, but you really want to make a difference as well. I got the chance to write some articles for the FT about what is changing in business, what are the changes that we're seeing, and one big change was a rise in the need to develop trust in organisations with much more global transparency, the need to build teams where there was a lot of good sort of self-esteem in individuals, and a need to develop organisations that stood out because of their values as much as the other services. In terms of starting the charity, it was the last thing I set out to do. I went off to a meeting with a group of head teachers in Hackney, and I was out from my day job working for UBS in Finsbury Circus, running change programs, and I wanted to ask them, are we creating a fairer as well as a richer society? You know, us in the business community, we want to do stuff that's going to help you. Yes. Is it filtering through? And they said, well, the thing is, Carmel, all of us, all of our schools, all of the teachers have to bring in food every day themselves, out their own pocket, just to be able to teach. Because so many kids are coming in, they haven't had any food since the day before, and they can't concentrate. And so my teachers are buying bananas on the way in, they're buying biscuits, because the kids are saying, Miss, 9 o'clock, I've got a tummy ache, I don't feel well, what is it? Wasn't any food this morning. I asked for some food on the way in, couldn't get any food. So, and it was one of these moments, I'm there kind of expecting, oh yes, we're very pleased with the grant that we've got from your bank, blah, blah. And it was one of those moments where you just think, how on earth in this rich, caring country have you got kids starving at the start of the school day? How on earth have we dropped the ball so badly for these kids? And so I was just so upset. And the first thing I said was, hang on, breakfast is not that expensive. Why aren't the parents giving their kids a breakfast before they go to school? And they all looked at me and they said, well, you know, yes, it's a fair point. There are some parents that could, but most of the parents are hungry themselves. They're working long hours. Lots of jobs don't pay very well. They've got high rent, they've got high utilities. The only thing they can't kind of scrimp back on, they can't scrimp back on the rent, they can't not put money in the meter, so they just have to cut back on the food bill, and parents are missing meals themselves in order to be able to give. So I'm sitting there, and it was one of those moments, and it still hits me to think about that moment with those teachers, because it was their normal, usual thing to deal with hunger every single day. And what they wanted to do was get these kids great at maths. you know, to love the work of exactly, really get them excited about learning. And they couldn't because the kids were hungry. So that was social failure. So I said, look, I don't know anything about education. I don't know anything about nutrition. But what I can go to Morning Lane Tesco's in Hackney, here in Hackney, and I can drop off food to your caretaker or something. Will that help? Yeah, that'd be great. So just used to go and hoover up all the bagels and the cereals and everything and drop them off with the caretakers on a Saturday morning. But that's how it started. It was started with those teachers saying to me, we can't teach because these kids are hungry. And that was something that shocked me so much. I felt I had to take action.
When we think about change activism, social activism in the workplace, if not as dramatic as your story, what are the kind of things that people could be doing that maybe, you know, could emulate in some way what you achieved, even if on like a micro level?
I didn't know that I was going to be going home after a few months of delivering food to schools and having from 5 schools, 25 schools to 30 schools to 4. I didn't know I was going to be going home to my partner, Catherine, and saying, is there any chance we could remortgage? Because I'm going to have to take a year out because I can't do this and do the job. And that's not an easy conversation, by the way. No. But I was taking a baby step. I thought, I don't know how to solve this problem, but I was doing what I could from where I was. I thought, at least I'd go to the shop and I could drop off some food. And maybe I could measure. And the teacher said, why don't we measure how many fights there are on the first playground break? I was like, what? They were like, well, the kids are hangry, you know, they're kind of, so or punctuality, or, you know, I'm a geek, so, you know, I kind of, can we get some data on whether this is making any difference? So just dropping off bread and cereal, suddenly they found attendance was going up because the kids weren't in cafes asking for food, blah, blah, blah. But I was not in any way saying, this morning I shall go off and I shall start magic breakfast and we shall feed thousands of children. Not at all. I was going to see these head teachers. When you're in a corporate role and someone comes up to you with a problem, or when your customers tell you something isn't right, you can do something about it or you can ignore it. Someone comes up to you at work and they're having a really bad day and you can say, I'm really busy, or, yeah, what is it? Yeah. Those tiny things, you know. So it's about taking action, baby steps. Yes. You know, the big transformation. When you look at the lives of social activists that have inspired me, they haven't gone off, you know, kind of Gandhi did not wake up one morning and say, right, I am going to make sure there is no British presence in India in the next 30 years. No, he said, I'm going to try to see whether people believe that we can offer a different approach to the rule in India. Yes. Could we get the voice of ordinary people in India into the mix here, or is that impossible? Can we try and have a conversation? Or Mandela, is there a way that I can forgive the people who've put me in jail as a way to find it? So it's not about having a great vision necessarily. There are some people who do, like Greta Thunberg, like great vision. Yes. But it's about taking baby steps, and a change activist is someone who takes action in line with their values, even when it takes you out your comfort zone. Yes. And that's the thing, the comfort zone is a really good indicator. If when that person says, yeah, I'm having a shit day actually, sorry about language, you know, and you say, right, what's going on? You're outside your comfort zone because you do not know what that person's going to bring, right? Yes. But you're making space, you're doing something with your heart as well as your head, you're showing a bit of care, and that is what people can do in any role, in any job. It's come from the heart, start with the heart, and if someone comes to you, or if you find something that you can make a tiny contribution towards, choose that moment. Yes. You know, it's just choosing that loving action whenever it comes up. Yes, incredibly inspiring. How big is the charity now? Obviously, we're 30 years on. Exactly, 900 years later. Well, I went very fast forward. I realised that there wasn't going to be any cavalry coming along. I thought the local authority might put some food in because the most important lessons are taught in the morning. The kids are coming in hungry. They're waiting for their lunch. They've got a free lunch, some of them, but not all of them. I went to corporates, went to Quaker Oats, for example, and said, look, I had porridge. I'm, you know, Irish East End background. I never got out the door without a bowl of porridge, no matter how much I fought. And so I did, you know, there are these kids, they're going to school hungry. Can we get some porridge to them? Yeah, did a deal. Okay, they said, we can reach more schools. How many schools? Let's go to 180 schools. Great. If you've got the porridge, can I use your vans as well? Because I'm doing Sainsbury's home delivery here. Yes. Like, yeah, sure. And so it built up. This morning, Magic Breakfast got a healthy breakfast to about 220,000 children. Another organisation, Family Action, using the Magic Breakfast model, got another 180,000 children a good feed, and that's orange juice, bagels, diluted orange juice, bagels, cereals, and any child who wants a breakfast can have it. There's no upper limit that the school can ask for, and it's www.magicbreakfast.com, and they always need help. You know, there's a waiting list of schools. There are between 3 and 4 million children in food poverty in this country, and the cost of living crisis has made that a lot worse. So the fast forward was, who also cares about this? You know, I don't know. I don't know anything about this. I don't know about schools. You know, I'm a technology person. Who can I ask? So I went to my publishers, because this conversation with the teachers turned out to be part of a book that I was pitching, which was called Corporate Activists. How do we learn from social activism to bring our values to work? Yes. And is there any value, commercial value, in having values in a marketplace? And it was all a bit hippie, as people were thinking then. It's like, what's, you know, values? Yeah, like that. You know, and I said, we put the customer first, we build trust, but it was that feeling of like, okay, how can I bring this message that loving action, taking action, and learning from social activists is good for business? I thought, how can I do that? So I put the Magic Breakfast sort of experience together as a story and brought it to my publishers, and they said, right, okay, we're going to back the charity as well. So it grew with corporate help, and it has now got a fantastic team. I stepped back 2 years ago to have my next adventure, but the core of it is, you can't expect a child to do well if they miss out on their education. Yes. And these kids, you know, a good healthy breakfast, it brings them to life. It gives them such a different energy. And the idea that one group of kids who by the accident of birth are in homes that's got food do well, and a whole load of other kids here or anywhere in the world don't get that future just because their brains are not nourished enough to be able to concentrate, that just seems to me like, come on, humanity. You know, we've got ChatGPT 5 coming out in 3 weeks. We can bloody make sure children are fed, can't we? So it's that thing. And I know anyone who wants to contact me about this, or I'm delighted to still be a broker and an advocate for those kids, because this is the investment in our country and the future as well, I think.
So powerful and so inspiring. The bit that always grabs me, and keen to get understand how you did it, but starting a venture out is hard. You know, I know that, and particularly in a sort of profit-making setting. How do you go from that intention and, you know, some, you know, obviously very front foot work, getting involved with the schools, publishers, corporates? How do you get other people behind you and then allow them to make this then their full-time work, and then build it from just being you and you know, getting bagels from Morning Lane to actually, okay, we've got 10 of us now, 20 of us. What's that journey like, and how did you go about getting those allies and people to join the charity?
That's a really good question. I think it's the hardest thing, the organisation side, you know, because the model that I chose was setting up a charity, you know, because I thought, right, okay, I have to be a transparent entity, but what I am is a trader. I'm a business person. I'm an entrepreneur, and so I didn't want to let go of having a social enterprise side as well. Yeah. So I built a program called Magic Outcomes that got people to do essentially a community MBA, coming into schools to deliver and learn about diverse audiences and learn about communication skills. But with the charity itself, we had no paid workers for 8 years. Yeah. You know, and it was entirely on volunteer group. I grabbed hold of anyone. And all I said was, these kids are going to school hungry. As you know, I am basically the weakest link in any setting you can ever find. You know this about me. Yeah. I will never find my keys without help. I have to pretty much go out with adult supervision. But we have to get these kids fed. So what are we going to do? And so my publisher said, right, okay, well, we'll put the profits of the book towards that. Okay, we'll contribute up. Great. Okay, that's some money. It was costing me about $2,000 a year to open up a breakfast club at that point. Now close to $5,000 a year. And that was feeding about a third of the children in every class. Yes. And it was making sure it was done without stigma, and the hardest part was getting the structure right. You know, it's like, okay, there has to be a good end-to-end process. I have to understand that child in that school is having a good experience. It's not horrible. It's a breakfast that's delicious and it's served in the way that they enjoy it. So that's my customer. that child getting that breakfast. So what are the key points before that? Well, I have to get it from people that care. I have to make sure it's delivered well. I have to make sure that we're measuring it so it actually arrives on time. So what's the structure of people that I need to deliver that supply chain?
Yeah.
You know, and I'm really very sad, interested in end-to-end data logistics.
Yeah.
You know, that would be my role. My master's in data protocols, and so looking at the end-to-end from that person there to that person there, is it going to go through voice over IP? Is it going to go through, you know, what are the channels that data gets to market? Okay, I still think that is fascinating. You know, shoot me now. But there is the same way, how do I get that delicious, healthy breakfast to those children? And what's the structure I need? So if you start first, okay, what kind of organisation do I want? And what offices do I want? And, you know, yeah, that's nice, that's lovely. But that's only if someone's bankrolling you, okay? If you're an entrepreneur, you start with solving the problem, right? Like,
yes.
There is a real gap here, there's a real problem. There's the solution. That's the best guess I've got at the solution, having talked to a lot of great people. And the children themselves, it's so child-centric because, like, kind of, what should we call this charity? Well, miss, when I have a bagel in the morning, I feel really awake, and it's like magic.
Yeah.
You know, all right, should we call it Magic Breakfast? Yeah, that's my name. That's what I did that for you, miss. Yep. And never forget that wee boy. He was such a cub. He was such a great. I know, exactly. Children designed that, and they're like, okay, so how should we get this to you? Who do you want to be giving the breakfast to you? I want the dinner ladies to be doing it. Okay, well, they're not only in at lunchtime. Well, can they come in early? Okay, yeah, all right. So we sorted all sorts of things out that would make it a really great experience for the children. That process and creating that sort of end-to-end supply chain that worked needed a certain organisation, and it was volunteer-led. So we had people doing Sainsbury's home delivery. I started with couriers because once I got beyond, I was driving the car around on Saturday morning dropping off this food, but once I got to 25 schools, I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. It was Saturday, Sunday, Monday driving around. Couldn't do it. So I kind of, okay, let's do Sainsbury's home delivery. Fine, let's do that. Then it was like, well, we're not sure that that's going to work long term because what we want to do is someone who's friendly to talk about the fact that these are for the children and blah blah. Okay, we got the vans from Quaker Oats. Then we got Tropicana from they had separate fleet of vans, so we got them. So the organisation comes from the solution being delivered and your understanding of the problem.
Yes.
You build the people who care about it and have got the skills to do it. Now, I had to get that from a volunteer pool. So this is, again, take action in line with your values. Who cares about this? You know, was the big question. Who cares about this and will help me because I'm going to screw up if I try and do it myself?
What were the things that, during that period, sort of going from a volunteer-led organisation to one that had some funds and was inputting processes, structure, particularly around supply chain, what were the things that you implemented, should we say, that went really well, and what were maybe some of the things that you trialled that didn't go so well in that kind of formation phase?
I was trying to make the case on two fronts. I was making the moral case.
Yes.
How can we, in the sixth richest economy, have this many children going to school too hungry to learn? We've got to do something. Please help me. I need some pro bono help. I need some money. I need some transport. I need some food to get to these kids. Any of this, have you got people you can give me? Great, fantastic. Can they do this? Great. As well as the business case. You know, if we feed these children now, they're going to get a better education experience. They'll go on to maybe get exam results. They'll be able to study. They'll be able to go on to successful, happy, healthy lives, which to the public purse is an enormous saving based on, or you have that child eating crisps before school, not getting the results, becoming unhealthy, not feeling like they could. So the business case and the moral case. And that building of those two cases brought me into quite interesting circles because I was lobbying government. I said, like, this is social failure. You need to have legislation that takes care. You've got legislation for school lunches, you haven't got it for breakfast. That needs to happen. And they're like, no, not really, no. We think the parents should do it. The parents are hungry themselves. Well, and also that moral case. Now, the moral case is what brought corporates and a lot of donations in. Come on, you know, let's do this. And the big thing for me was like to recognise one of the strong lessons in change activists is activists ask better questions. You know, it's like kind of what's the smallest thing that I can do that would make a difference here? You know, like how do I choose in my minutes today, all I've got, because I was kind of looking at this, bloody hell, I've got 15, 20, 30 schools saying we can't teach we hear you're the lady that's dropping off breakfasts. Please, can you get to us today? Please, can you come? We can't do any more for our kids. The teachers are at their wits' end for these kids. The clock was ticking. And so while making this moral case and this business case, here's the investment. You give me this money for these kids, this is the outcome for society. Do you care about that? Politicians, media, boom, boom, boom. And for the corporates, how can it be that you're putting £500,000 into marketing for this food product and 32p will give a breakfast to this child? Come on, this is the big mistakes I made, I think, were in having early on a sense that I could do more of it myself. Yeah. Because the more I tried to do, the more I was coming up against a brick wall. And I was getting exhausted, I was getting frustrated. And then I thought, look, if I'm basically the broker here, if I'm the person who thinks I've seen that problem and I have an idea about a solution, and there are all these gorgeous people, there are so many people, big-hearted, lovely, caring people that want to make a difference. And if I can just broker it, I might have something I can add on it, but actually the big thing is like just making that traffic work. So I saw myself essentially as a kind of green light, I don't know what to do. Okay, there's a school near you, could you go and do an assembly? People said, I'm not sure about giving money, but do you fancy turning up and volunteering, giving out some breakfasts? Yeah, I could do that. Could you write a letter to your MP? Great. I'd have a whole 20 different things that people could do based on how much they want to contribute. So give people easy ways to contribute. Yeah. Yeah. So in your organisation, don't absolutely delegate the heck out of it. Look at what you're doing and take 50% off your desk and give it to people as a chance to grow, as a chance to develop, and focus on the bit that you're good at. I'm quite good, Irish genes, East End genes, I'm quite good at chatting people up. And I enjoy it. I can take them out and we can enjoy alcohol together. No, I won't say that's a big part of my life, but it's a huge, no. And you could get these people to sort of see what they could do, and opening people. There was one school, Hillmead, I went to, and there was a fantastic head teacher. She said, children, we are here today in this school to prepare for your future success. Right. So every organisation I went to, I'd say, listen, we are here today to prepare for your future success, to build your reputation as a firm that cares as much as has great products and services, because that is going to be the future. You can get all sorts of firms that say, yes, we're great on pricing, yes, we're great on the functionality, yes, we do a great job, but the ones that you can trust, that show they care about stuff more than money, the ones that you can go to the pub with, that's coming up as a theme, I realise, but anyway. But, they're the people you want to do business with, So for me, the big plus was take yourself out of the equation as much as you can, delegate like anything, and find the bit that you are perfect at, that you are great at, that you will get up every day and go for it. And let other people do the stuff that they love, that you can't do. And that managing it, egos are overheads as well. Yes. I mean, like kind of as soon as I'd go in and I'd sort of have occasional people say, Carmel, you founded this charity, that must be very satisfying for you. And I'm like, I started a charity. Like, no. It's like kind of, no, that's not the deal. The deal is there is this child, Zara, who wakes up in a home. She's going to a school and it's just off the roundabout at Angel. And I remember Zara so well. Her mum went out early for a cleaning job. Her dad wasn't around. She had a younger sister. Her younger sister was 3. She took her younger sister to school with her and asked in the cafe on Goswell Road if she could have a sandwich. And if she didn't, her sister that she was carrying with her would come to school and she'd be crying by then because she was so hungry. And the school said, when Zara kicks off, the whole school kicks off. Yeah. That girl, she will fight, and she's doing it for her sister. She's saying she's bringing her younger sister to school. They don't have a nursery place. The school would always find a way to feed her. She said, now we can bring her in, her and her sister. They can have a bowl of cereal. They can have a toasted bagel. They can play. They can sort of do some colouring, and it's good for her. It's good for her. So any time I'd be sitting there thinking, oh, this is about Carmel McConnell, how marvellous. No, it's not. It's about Zara. It's about people like Zara. It's about those families who are desperate to make sure that their kids get an education, who have empty cupboards. Yeah. Empty cupboards. Teachers going and saying, went to see this family just before Christmas. They had a packet of sausages in the fridge. Like, bloody hell, bloody hell, bloody hell. And we hear about the cost of living crisis, we hear about hunger, but it was, for me, it was personal. So I'd get into a meeting, and this is another thing, don't waste time in meetings that don't work. Yeah. Don't get into a bloody exchange of egos, you know. I used to go into the meeting and say, I'm here because I need to get some money off you to feed some hungry kids. Now, we can have I've got about 15 minutes to decide whether or not that's going to happen. And I'd really like you to tell me as soon as you can whether you're able to help me. Because if not, if we're here for a social chat, let's go to the pub later. Let's go and have a coffee. But I have got these kids that need me to get some money. So I'm really sorry, but I've got to be direct. Are you going to be able to help Magic Breakfast? How are you going to be able to help us? Yeah. Boom, it was done. Up front, get into the guts of it straight away. And I find that there's a timidity in some corporate life where you kind of get in a room and you have a wee chat and everyone knows we have to make a decision today about whether to spend this money or not spend this money, or go into this market, not go into this market. And you have about 20 minutes frothing about at the start of it, like, oh, you know, isn't it? Yeah. Cultural things, let's talk about weather, fine. But actually, if you care about getting stuff done, don't get into meetings. Like, kind of agree it on a phone, agree it on a email, and then get into a meeting to debate something, to flesh something out. That's great. So I just couldn't bear. So I had a 15-minute rule. So people, like, 10 minutes into a meeting, when I go with my team, they sort of like, right, okay, have we got a deal? Have we got a deal? Great. More than happy to spend the whole day here if we've got a deal. If it's not a deal, I have to go now. And people are like, bloody hell, that's a bit rude, isn't it? I'm like, I'm sorry, I've just got to, because it was so important to stay focused on that, solving the problem. So I guess there's some of that energy and some of that focus and purpose that's useful for people in any situation, right?
Yeah. A question I get all the time when talking to people in my line of work, so, typically candidates, employers, working in fantastic businesses, is that they want to know how they can do more, and that maybe they don't have as directed or focused approaches as you had, but they have a real sense that they want to do something. Mm-hmm. They sense that something's wrong. They don't know what or how to impact it. Are there a couple of things you would sort of suggest to some really high performing people in the corporate world who want to have a better sense that they're having real impact on the world? For
sure. And I think when you've lived in a corporate setting and you're bright and you've lived in your head, you sort of think, I must think through a great solution to some social problem. Yeah. And I've talked to a lot of people like that. And I said, the simple thing is, and I've broken it down into detail in the book, and I've sort of said it's about passion to start with, what you care about. When you've got friends around for snacks or whatever, what makes you really get into it? What do you care about? What do you think? Okay, that does get. Or you hear something on the radio and like, bloody hell, or someone brings something to you at work and you're like, oh yeah. What is it you care about? And that the first thing is almost to kind of to notice the things that stir passion in you. I care about this. And then that will give you, okay, well, I seem to care about the fact that the government wants to send people to Rwanda because they're trying to get here for a better life. All right, okay, well, maybe I could talk to the nice people over at the Refugee Council if there's anything that they need. Or, I'm really sick and tired of looking at bloody rubbish outside my front door. Sick and tired of it. It really makes me cross. All right, okay. What's happening in your local area to do with kind of making sure that there's a clean-up, or writing to your council? The action doesn't have to be part of some great social vision. Yeah. It starts with okay, what do you care about? What makes you shout at the telly? What do you care about? What then would be a baby step to do something in line with what you care about? Because that caring, you take a tiny bit of action, tiny step, even if it's just writing an email to someone, and that gives you a little bit of energy. It's when you take action, you expand your comfort zone, and you're able to think a little bit more about what else you want to do. It's when you stuff it all down. It's when you stuff down feelings. It's when you stuff down how you ignore it, and you stay in your brain, that I think things start to get a little bit harder to work through. So that baby step, that little bit of action you take, you then think, oh, actually, I could do a bit more of this. Or maybe I could talk to my friends about it. Or maybe some of us could, again, a tiny bit. But it gives you a bit of strategy. It gives you a bit of direction. It gives you a bit of purpose. And from that, from passion that leads to purpose, you then get a flywheel that says, all right, well, what are we going to do about this? Well, like by the end of the year, I'm going to make sure that 5 of our streets around where I live are clean. Yeah. And I don't know how I'm going to do that. I'm going to talk to someone, I don't know. But the way that most corporates go is the other way around. They say, like, we want to do something. We've put together some milestones and we've got this target at the end of the year. Yeah. Got a plan. Okay, good. It's because we've got this strategic direction that we're trying to get in here. Oh, by the way, does anyone care about it? Yeah. You know? So they're kind of trying to force things around a natural will. So social change, like you talked to Marcus Rashford, for example, about why did he get the government to do a U-turn? He's a footballer. You know, he doesn't even play for West Ham. So, you know, I mean, he's had a good enough career. But I won't say that really. The thing that really got him was the government was refusing to give vouchers so that kids that were, during the pandemic, unable to get to school, unable to access holiday school food schemes, and couldn't eat during the holidays, they were being denied vouchers that had been put in the system. And Marcus Rashford himself, his mum had said, I got Marcus into the Man United junior squad. One of the big reasons was he could have a meal there. You know, his mum was working in a betting shop. She worked there during the day and then she stayed on as a cleaner in the evening. He went to school. Button Lane in Manchester is a school that Magic Breakfast supported. Mm-hmm. So he was getting a Magic Breakfast, I hope. But it was one of those things where he felt so strongly that the government couldn't ignore those hungry children in the holidays because it was in his life. You know, it was the sense of being a child who didn't have enough food was very personal to him. So he said he got meetings and he just kept saying to people, why can't we give these kids the vouchers so they can have a meal? What, you know, he asked inside the club first. The club said to him, why don't you write an article? Someone wrote an article with him. Then he got some political traction. Then he got a meeting with Boris Johnson. It was still no, 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 no. Suddenly the whole world is behind Marcus Rashford saying, hang on, Marcus Rashford cares about this. You know, Man United fans, of course, and then other people. And then he got a phone call from Boris Johnson. Okay, we are. You know, we are. But it was a small thing that started from the heart. It started from the heart. It was like, you know, so kind of don't think you've got to sit down and work out all the issues that exist in the world and where can I do a spreadsheet. It's like, what do you think at home? What do I care about? You know, what matters to me? There's that lovely quote from Rosa Parks, isn't it? You've got to stand up. It's got to stand for something or else you'll fall for anything. Yeah. And that feeling of like, okay, how do you use this great fuel in your heart, the love that's there, the care that's there, to help you find your path? You know, because the path we find in life, I believe, is genuinely more likely to be fulfilling if we start from that place of love and from care, rather than from trying to impress people or trying to kind of, you know, do things just because we're clever. Yeah. You know, but that's just been my experience. Yeah.
We're in a certain macroeconomic climate right now, deteriorating one, where organisations are focused on cost. Yeah. They're reprioritising a lot of what they're doing. Yeah. What advice do you have to them around their purpose agenda in this changing macroeconomic environment? Why does it remain important? And, you know, particularly from an employee perspective, what could they be doing more to progress themselves? Yeah,
it's really interesting when markets, economies go in cycles, don't they? Yeah. And we're kind of finding ourselves right now in a high inflation, big cost of living problem. Money is squeezed for everyone. And for big corporates, I think this is an opportunity because for particularly the leadership of big corporations, this is where they have an opportunity to do things that will make them stand out as having a heart in the marketplace. Right, I think for a lot of corporations, a cost squeeze makes them become more risk averse. Like, okay, we'll stop doing things. We might lose people. We might, you know, it's right on the numbers, but in terms of the long-term reputation, the firms that will jump out and say, during this cost of living crisis, we're going to make sure that we are going to be supporting our staff. We're going to give everyone who's in our teams, who's on the lower income side, a breakfast when they come to work. I know of one fantastic organisation that's doing that in the tech field. They've just said, look, we hire lots of people. They're at a fairly junior stage in their career. We make sure that they've got something. It's finding the ways to stand out as having yes, we've got a cost squeeze. Yes, it's a difficult time, but we're caring people. We want you to understand our values and action by the things that we do. So you talk about ESG and the kind of, again, the intellectual thing. What is it that you could do as a leader that would show you understand there's a cost of living crisis and you care? Yeah. What could you put in place? It doesn't necessarily need to cost a lot of money, but it's having the emotional intelligence, it's having this core. And also, I think that low risk has become high risk. I think the firms that are saying, I think we'll just go a bit quiet and we'll just just do things that will be reducing our cost base and we'll hope we'll tide over. No. Who was it that said, I think it was Warren Buffett that said that never let a crisis, good crisis go to waste, right? Use it to stand out. Use it to stand out. Use it to say, okay, in this time where we know our people are struggling or our customers are struggling, this is what we're doing about it. This is where we're jumping out and doing something big about it. And with Magic Breakfast, there were so many firms that said, like, for example, Quaker Oats, they put the Magic Breakfast story on the side and they said, we've had such a great response. It didn't cost us very much to do that, but we've had such a great response from customers saying that, at a time when money's tight, we didn't know that porridge was such good value for families for breakfast. And you've put what you're doing for Magic Breakfast on there. It's made me more tempted to buy it. Yeah. You want customer loyalty. You want people to buy your stuff. They do that if they can trust you. And so don't take the silent route. Take the most vocal, loving, this is the action we're taking to respond to that macroeconomic environment. This is the action that we're taking because we care. And just build your long-term reputation in this tough time.
What action can business leaders take specifically to address the issue of child poverty and hunger in this country?
First thing is pay your people properly. We had very open conversations with all of our partners at Magic Breakfast to say, I don't want to be in a school where a child says, we're hungry because my dad's working with you guys opposite the road and you don't pay him well, or my mum or my sister or whatever. So make sure that you're meeting your social obligations in terms of pay. That's a really big deal, Secondly, kind of find the thing that's core business for you, that is something that you want to grow, and embed in every piece of transaction, every bit of commercial transaction, some donation that goes straight to the problem that you care about. Okay, so if it's water supplies, we know the water companies have got a long way to recover their reputations with the absolutely disgusting behaviour that they've done to, rivers that are ecologically dead now, Now, those people, I don't think they're bad people, but I think they just decided to save some money on it, right? Okay, they have to, I think, earn back our respect. And the first thing they could do was make sure that in every single bill that's coming back, there's a donation to Surfers Against Sewage, to the organisations that are trying to stop the pollution of our rivers, that you've got a donation to something like water aid on every bill. You can do an opt-in, but the amount of profit that organisations take has also got to be commensurate with their contribution to society. And we are seeing now, I think, a time where you saw the great Patagonia gesture, where it just said, the planet Earth is our main shareholder. Take an action in your core business that generates a positive outcome for things that you can directly say you're related to. So a consultancy. I mean, I love what Patrick Morgan Foundation has done. So if you're running a big consultancy, you want a pipeline of talent, and you want a pipeline of talent coming from a diverse slate, right? You want people who are the best people for the job. Right now, the best people for the job, as you have found, are economically disadvantaged out of it, haven't got the resources to get to that great job. You could be the smartest cookie in town, but you've got 20 things in your way that will stop you getting that job. Invest in Patrick Morgan. So for everyone that's kind of, coming to your wonderful firm for the chance to get the right talent into their company, make a donation so that you've got a program going on into the Patrick Morgan Foundation. Build that pipeline of future talent. I mean, Magic Breakfast, I was saying, well, do you want fully skilled people in 10 years' time or not? Or do you just plan to wind down because actually there's not many kids coming through because half of them are hungry? And they were like, well, don't be silly. Well, okay, that's exaggerating, but what about us having every corporate saying, I care about this future talent and I'm going to invest in it now, No child too hungry to learn. The work that I'm doing right now to make sure every child and every family that's digitally offline gets a chance for the technology they need to live an online life. How about we invest in making sure that the people who haven't got it have got the same chance? That's all you want.
Yeah.
And I think so many people in companies want to do that,
Yeah.
but you just have to say, bloody do it.
Yeah.
You know, it's the action. It's not the meetings, it's not the PR, it's not whatever, it's the action you take.
Yeah. Could go on this for a long time, but I'm
I'm
keen to hear a little bit about what you're up to at the moment, because
Yeah.
you've stepped back slightly from Magic Breakfast now, and you're doing some other work in the tech space we were speaking about earlier. Yeah, what are you up to at the moment?
Well, I love scaling up. I love scaling up. I mean, the big thing for me with Magic Breakfast was, finding all the different markets. I mean, essentially a government, an MP was someone to be persuaded to put some money into school breakfasts. And that was, a persuasion job, but we did get it. We managed to get a government commitment to school breakfast, which is ongoing. But for me right now, I've really been excited about the fact that, you need technology to do everything, right, now in business. So how about making it all good technology? What about kind of really going after the gains of the planet by having green cloud? Just making sure that everyone is fully aware of the energy use in technology. It's not data versus nature. Every email does have an impact on the planet, and people just don't know that. So I want to open up a kind of campaigning side on the technology cost, if you like, and making sure that for the big tech firms, I think, and every bank, every consultancy is a big tech firm, right? You stop being a bank, you've started being a tech firm. So trying to figure out, how do we make sure that absolutely everybody in society gets some of those tech benefits? Because Lloyd's, they've got a fantastic digital exclusion team, and I've been doing some work with them. They estimate there's 14 million people in the UK who are digitally excluded. Can't get, kids doing homework on pay-as-you-go data, parents who can't afford broadband. If you can't afford food, you can't afford broadband. You can't afford kit, And then this other percentage of people where we're thinking about our next iPad. Do you know what I mean? It's such a divide. So closing that digital divide is something that I'm really passionate about. Magic Breakfast schools, many of them were opening up the staff room after school hours to let parents come in to use the computers to do job adverts, to have a look online, because that's the only way. Who can go, company to company and knock on a door now? You can't. So what I'd love to do, and I'm working with this fantastic organisation called Cyber, and we're building up a new division called Cyberkind, and we're saying for every bit of technology that you put in, you should have an opt-in on the planet. So, what can we do in your technology spend that shows, it could be just offsetting, could be trees, great. Could be reduce, reuse, recycle, could be putting in that mindset in everyone's head about in the office. The second part is, how do we create the skills? How do we cause change? And the main thing with Change Activist is I want to get people action oriented. You know what I mean? I want to get people feeling, I can do that, I can have a go at that. My life's become a bit, I'll wait until the boss says okay, I'll wait until the market's a bit better. There's never a good time, right? Try it now and learn from it. Give it a go. So what I'd love to see is to have every firm really skilling people up. For AI, I'm particularly interested in AI and how that will transform our industries. And secondly, to kind of be able to make sure that you've got an understanding of how technology powers your growth in every single way, and all the devices that people might be watching this on. How can we use technology for good? The third thing is straightforward distribution. Working with BT, working with some big firms. Anyone that wants to help us, please do. We want to make sure that all the repurposed kit is going to communities where they have no kit. So, and Vodafone are doing fantastic stuff in this space, actually giving away some data. For every person going to a food bank, I want them also to have a technology offer. So for every person that's trying to get their life on track, but they're hungry or they lost a job or whatever's gone on, then here's a laptop, here's some data, here's a mobile. What do you need to get back into the world? So that sort of Cyberkind, is I'm hoping that I can be a bit of a broker to do that. And Magic Breakfast still needs a ton of help. There's an amazing team over there. I stepped back after 20 years because the team were just so great, and I just thought, okay, there is now room for me to do something else. But there is just an astonishing amount of need still on the child hunger side. So that would be support on that is always great. And people just get hold of me. I'm at Magic Carmel on Twitter. People can always ping me. If people want me to help get some action orientation in their organisations, I can do that for free or I can do that for money. I've got a Robin Hood approach to it, the whole thing, But the great thing is I genuinely believe that there are so many good people working in roles where they haven't unleashed their whole potential. And that's a mission, I feel, because I saw so many people in the companies, once we got things moving and we got people coming into schools, people saying, I had no idea there was so much strength of feeling among my colleagues about doing this good thing. I had no idea our company was full of this. Exactly. And you must have found that with Patrick Morgan Foundation, did you?
Yeah, continually. I mean, one of the main drivers for us was shifting our industry or shifting our mindset to actually find reason beyond just being a transactional sort of money-making machine. And I think through the foundation, a lot of our team really resonated behind a certain purpose, behind a certain cause, something we felt that we could enact change on, which was specifically, as you mentioned, bridging that gap between our clients and maybe the talent that does exist out there, identifying what the challenges were to achieve that, I mean, particularly around sort of social and cultural capital, and begin, similarly to what you've described, just taking baby steps to implement change programs. We've got a digital app now, we're partnering with some local schools to begin driving that change. Just before we wrap up, really keen to touch on the books. It's the third edition now, and I know we've gone through a lot of themes that come up in it. Do you want to just tell us a little bit what it's about for anyone who's thinking picking up a copy?
Change activist, yes! Oh, exciting. Change activist, noun, a person who takes action based on their values, someone who goes outside their comfort zone to live a life with meaning and purpose. Well, what's really interesting in this third edition was I wanted to make it about, when you say the word activist, you think, people with the placards and all that. And it's about activism in everyday life, really. It's about, you being able to work out what you care about and to take action in line with your values, to give yourself energy, to give yourself confidence to find out who you truly are. And this is a book for anyone who feels like, actually, I've got potential that isn't being unleashed. I've got potential in so many ways, but for whatever reason, I'm just a bit nervous about it. I'm just a bit, it's very hard. The lesson that I've had is, you take action and then your confidence grows. So for so long, I'd wait, especially when I was working in BT, I'd wait until my boss was in a good mood, or I'd wait until I'd wait until, exactly. I was waiting for the right time. And months, years go by, right? And what I've realized is just that sense of, doesn't matter if I don't get it right. The thing is to try it, to if you do it with your full heart and it's something you care about and you're trying to make a difference, people will respond to that positively. So the book is really about, passion, purpose, plan in your own life. What is it that you can do to unleash your own potential, and what about in your community, and what about in the world? Because we really need activism in corporates. We really need people to turn away from the model of capitalism that has, kind of not served the planet so well, not served some communities so well. And I think profit and principles is capitalism in its next level. It's like, yes, let's go for all the profit, and let's do it with such rich principles that planet and people benefit. And that's, it's an optimistic book. I'm hopeful. I know a lot of activists and a lot of people feel, oh, it's all too late and everything. I sort of take a line from David Attenborough, who says, there is still time if we all play our part. Yes. There is still time for this planet if we all play our part. Yes. So how do we use AI to, make sure that the polar caps are refrozen? How do we use AI to make sure that the scarlet macaw is protected in 19 rainforests? How do we use AI to make sure that if I were, for example, a young woman who was black in a part of the world who didn't have access to water, that I got water and I got education? How do we solve these social problems using the promise of technology? Because activists, we have to ask the technology the right questions. And that's the glorious future that I hope we're rushing towards.
Yeah, no, completely. It's feels like an incredibly pivotal time in sort of evolution with some of the development coming up in technology, the advent of AI, and so much hype around ChatGPT. But conscious of time. But thank you so much for coming in today, sharing some of that. It's been incredibly insightful, interesting, talking about the book. I can't thank you enough for today, for everything you do to support me and our business. It's really appreciated.
Thank you so much. Well, I'm such a fan of what you've done with the Patrick Morgan Foundation, and more power to you. I hope that companies absolutely back you, because it's a fantastic initiative. And thanks for inviting me.
Thanks so much.